All right, so Russell Brand actually released a video yesterday, and people showed it to me, and then the next day, some very serious stuff came out about him, or I guess allegations, right? Nothing is, for what I know, we're going to look into it, is necessarily proven yet, right? Innocent until proven guilty, right? You take everything that comes up seriously, but you don't instantly assume that it is real, and you kind of have to let the justice system or whatever parse through it, right? So he made a video in response. We're not going to watch it first. Well, should we watch it first? Yeah, let's watch it first, only because this is like the order of information. When it comes to this kind of stuff, like obviously he wants to get ahead of it because usually the first bit of information that comes out, people will be more charitable to. It's like an anchor bias thing. Somebody will hear a bit of information from a particular source and they'll go, oh, and then at that point you have an opinion, and then your opinion needs to be shifted. It's easier to get someone to form a new opinion or like a brand new opinion than it is to change their opinion. So it's a quick, like not even 3-minute video. Let's see what he has to say.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Now, this isn't the...
Oh yeah, I just skimmed through it on 2x. Let me not have that on 2x speed. Let's go.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Now, this isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack, and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, okay, I am the news.
By the way, I'm not like a big Russell Brand fan. I'm not like a non-fan either. It just kind of exists. I know he does social... political stuff. I'm not like super familiar with his takes or his perspective or anything. So
received 2 extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, okay, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute.
Okay.
These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity...
I mean, I guess a lot of men are, huh? You know, I talked about it. I used to be like non-monogamous, and not my proudest times. But you know, thank God I've gotten older and matured. Though I have no allegations like this against me. But let's see what we got here.
The relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play?
It's interesting because, like, and this doesn't mean that he's right or wrong or anything, but it's interesting because of the kind of content he seems to make based on his representation here, even if it is true, and this is not an assertion saying that it's true. Even if it is true, his audience seems like very, I'm not even gonna say susceptible, but somewhat susceptible. Yeah, that is what I'm gonna say, to the concept of like so much media misinformation that he could potentially just walk out of like an actual true allegation by saying the media is just using this to attack me. And let's not pretend that people don't do that. People, people will, you know, sensationalize certain things to go after somebody, of course, and like over sensationalize, intentionally leave stuff out, or they'll go on a story that hasn't been fleshed out in any capacity. And when you push them on, they'll be like, oh, it's just an allegation, right? So they won't like flesh out the truth. They'll be like, this is what we heard, even if it's not confirmed. So it is possible. But even if it is true, like he kind of has this stage of people who are very like, oh, well, because the media does misrepresent things. They sensationalize a lot of stuff, right? That's kind of how the media works. But it seems like his audience is probably going to stick with him regardless, even if it is true, because he has that almost, you know, kind of like, it's a conspiracy kind of thing. That's at least what I'm getting out of this very limited amount that I'm seeing from what he's saying. And again, the media is dog shit. But I think that there is a fundamental, there's an understanding that the media sensationalizes, and an understanding of that in a healthy way is always positive. But you could take that and then you can sensationalize the media sensationalization, and then you can go like conspiracy. And it's kind of a fine line to walk. But hey, who really knows? Am I right? Like I would subscribe more to the brand of like Jon Stewart, you know, media criticism, rather than necessarily like almost like a conspiracy media criticism. So
particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of. And
well, that's a little more complicated than that. But okay.
we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out, Russell, they're coming for you.
I'll tell you, that CNN guy like really got dumpstered on that, I think. I forget those specifics.
Getting too close to the truth. Russell Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles. Russell Brand's a conspiracy theorist. Russell Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. It's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean my voice along with your voice. I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous, consensual conduct in the past. What I seriously refute are these very, very serious criminal allegations. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack.
Okay.
Now, I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations, but I feel like I'm being attacked and plain.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's probably obviously going to be different avenues he's going to go down for this.
They are working very closely together. We are obviously going to look into this matter because it's very, very serious. In the meantime, I want you to stay close, stay awake, but more important than any of that,
stay woke, baby.
if you can, please stay free.
Okay. So this obviously his take is he didn't do it, and he thinks that there's like a specific, like, intentional effort to try to make him look like a bad guy because, you know, they label him right wing and conspiracy theorist. Okay. So here's the headline: Russell Brand accused of rape and sexual assault. Holy moly! I think one of the girls was 16. Or allegedly, right? Because there's allegations. It's innocent until proven guilty, but like the way that you interact with these is that you're innocent until proven guilty, because obviously, but you take them seriously enough to investigate them, but you don't, like, you know. All right. Comedian and actor Russell Brand has been accused of rape, sexual assault, and emotional abuse during a 7-year period at the height of his fame. The allegations were made in a joint investigation by the Sunday Times, the Times, and the Channel 4 Dispatches. All right, very interesting. Oh, this is like a time. This is like a locked article behind a paywall. 4 women are alleging sexual assault between 2006 and 2013. Interesting. So that's like 10 to. Oh, dude, math is so bad. 10 to 17 years ago. Am I getting that right? Okay. Brand has denied the allegations and said his relationships have always been consensual. Okay. During the years covered by the allegations, Brand had various high-profile jobs at different times, including at BBC Radio 2 and Channel 4, and as an actor in Hollywood films. Like, listen, here's the thing. I don't doubt, just right off the jump, that a guy in a position of power would, whether it was intentional or not, put a woman in a situation where they felt pressured into having sex or do some kind of sexual favor for him. You know, like, I think that that's one of the problems with guys, and it's almost a bigger problem, is that it's totally possible he didn't even realize he was doing it. You know, men can sometimes get power, and then they let it go to their head, you know. And that's one of the big conversations about, like, consent and teaching, especially guys, men, that, you know, how to not constantly push and be aware of power dynamics that exist, especially with women. And that's not to say women cannot be, you know, sexually inappropriate, but it's a big thing for a guy, you know. But okay, let's see. Other claims made as part of the investigation relate to Brand's allegedly controlling, abusive, and predatory behavior. The investigation is published in the Sunday Times, while the Dispatch's documentary Russell Brand in Plain Sight aired on Channel 4 on Saturday. Really? Russell Brand in Plain Sight. Interesting. I wonder how comprehensive this thing is. I would have to look into that. I wonder if that's something that, like, I could look at. Because they seem to have, like, a huge comprehensive breakdown. It looks like, obviously... Is this the whole thing? This is interesting.
Physical.
Oh, no, it's not. Okay. Okay. Let's continue. Within hours of the allegations being published, Brand performed a scheduled comedy gig at the 2,000 capacity, Wembley Park Theatre in northwest London as part of his current tour. During this set, which lasted an hour, Brand alluded to the accusations but did not address them directly. He told the audience there were things he wanted to talk about but could not. Yeah, obviously, it's going to turn into a legal matter. Several women have made allegations against Brand as part of the investigation. 4 women allege sexual assault. 1 woman alleges that Brand raped her against her will in Los Angeles home. She was treated at a rape crisis center the same day. Oof. Well, if she was treated, then that definitely legitimizes her claim. The Times says it was a medical. Wow. The Times says it has seen medical reports to support this. Well, I mean, listen. That's a pretty big thing. You know, if this is true, if she was treated that same day, that does not speak particularly well to him. A second woman alleges that Brand assaulted her when he was in his early 30s and she was 16 and still in school. She alleges he referred to her as the child during an emotionally abusive and controlling relationship. Okay. Third woman claims that Brand sexually assaulted her while she worked with him in Los Angeles and that he threatened to take legal action if she told anyone else about her allegation. The fourth woman alleged being sexually assaulted by Brand and him being physically and emotionally abusive towards her. On Friday, Russell Brand released a video that denied serious criminal allegations he said were about to be made against him. The actor and comedian said, I'm assuming that has to be part of a protocol or like a courtesy. Like, hey, probably not even a courtesy. I don't know why I would say that. Probably more of a, hey, do you want to comment on this? We're about to release a story about how we think you're a sexual, rapist. Or a regular rapist, right? Because all rape is sexual. Sorry. The actor and comedian said he received letters from TV company and newspaper containing a litany of aggressive attacks. In the video posted on YouTube and X, formerly known as Twitter, Brand said amidst this litany, okay, we've got this. We've already read through this. We literally watched the video. Brand said he believed he was part of subject to a coordinated attack and he was going to look into the matter because it was very, very serious. While not referring to the comedian by name, the Metropolitan Police said it was aware of media reports of a serious allegation of sexual assault, but had not received any reports. Okay. If anyone believes that they have been a victim of sexual assault, no matter how long it happened, we would encourage them to contact police. The Sunday Times said all the women felt ready to speak only after being approached by reporters. The newspaper said several felt compelled to do so given Brand's newfound performance as an online wellness influencer. Prominence, excuse me. This is one of the things, because I know it's such a nuanced thing. I know it's so difficult, but I have a hard time when it comes to, I don't know. Sometimes it feels so like intentional to go after somebody at like a certain time, and it makes sense. Like all of them are coming forward, they feel more comfortable now. He's not at that position of power that he used to be in, and so I guess this is how it would come. But we've seen a few different instances of people weaponize like sexual assault and grooming, and I guess it only takes a couple of false reports to kind of cloud your mind on the potentially real ones and make you like additionally skeptical, especially in the online field and sphere. Obviously, hopefully a full investigation is done and justice is served regardless of which direction it is, whether they're telling the truth or they're lying or whatever. But for me, like, I'm going to try to find more information really quick, see if there's something that we could reference to see if there's some additional details about it. And we're going to continue to read the article. But I'm obviously I'm skeptical. I'm always skeptical, and that's kind of the job. I'm not saying that they're lying. I'm just saying I'm always skeptical. But like I said, I wouldn't doubt that somebody like that would be somebody like a man in a position of power that's very sexually, charged, would do something like that, would put himself before other people. Whether it was an intentional assault or the way that they describe it, it seems to be intentional, or whether it's like him just, pushing past boundaries and making them feel very uncomfortable, making them feel like they can't say no because he's selfish. I don't know. Most of the women who the Times said do not know each other have chosen to remain anonymous. The Sunday Times said it gave Brands 8 days with which to reply to detailed allegations, and when given further opportunity to respond, Brand published his response video on YouTube channel. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. The woman who said she was, what is this? Oh, this is a stand-up in 2014. The woman who said she was 16 when she first came into contact with Brand told the Sunday Times, Russell engaged in behaviors of a groomer, looking back, but I didn't even know what that was then or what that looked like. Another woman alleged to the newspaper that she repeatedly told Brand to get off her during one sexual assault and that when he eventually relented, he flipped and was super angry. Interesting. I wonder. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot. It's very charged. That's a very charged statement. A different woman claimed that Brand pushed her up against a wall and raped her without a condom. She alleged Brand tried to stop her leaving until she told him she was going to the bathroom. I ran out and I jumped in my car. Thank God I didn't park in his driveway and booked it out of there, she said. Brand has hosted a number of radio and TV programs for networks, including Channel 4, MTV, Radio X, BBC. Yeah, I mean, the way that these are framed, I can't see how he would misunderstand these situations. These are pretty bad. You know, and he's obviously not going to give his take on the story. He's never going to probably ever give his take on it. It's most likely he'll just go deal with it from like a legal perspective, which makes the most sense. You know, these things can be very complicated. It's always possible that people will experience something like bad, and then as time goes on, they'll forget some details potentially, and then they will remember the situation based on the way that they felt rather than what necessarily happened. And common instances of this are like when you're in a relationship with somebody that's like really shitty to you, and you think that like you're fully the victim when both of you are probably shitty. This is obviously not that. It's also possible that these are like 100% true, and these women are just like, throughout, this guy was a fucking predator. It's totally possible. Again, I'm not like a lawyer in the situation. What I say has no bearing on whether he gets like arrested or anything. It's just right now, these are obviously, these are claims, right? And there's nothing, the one thing, if that one person went to like a rape crisis center or got a rape kit done right after, and that's definitely a massive amount of evidence, so the police should definitely investigate everything that they can. He started his career as a stand-up comedian in the early 2000s, but he got big a break a few years ago. I don't care about that. After his profile surged, Brand was a cast in Hollywood films such as Forgetting Sarah Marshall, Get Into the Greek, that movie was fucking terrible, and Arthur. I feel like it's literally his personality that he's a sexual asshole and thinks every girl wants him. That's possible, but that's one of the problems, right? Let's say that is what it is, that he's a guy that like thinks really confidently of himself and like thinks that girls want him, and maybe they do in some capacity, and he takes it as a license to be overly sexually aggressive and to put women into situations where like maybe they are sexually attracted to him, but like they're not ready for a certain thing, and then he pushes really hard, and then he ends up like violating their boundaries, you know? So yeah, but I get that. I mean, you could argue that if they know what kind of guy he is, they shouldn't have interacted with him. But then again, I don't think that based on those allegations, I just think it's too complicated to say something like that. Like, you know, because I wouldn't doubt something like that. I also wouldn't doubt that he just outwardly fucking raped these girls. I don't know. I don't know. The woman who said she was 16 met Brand. Told the Times she took her allegations to his literary agent, Anghard Wood, the co-founder of Tavistock Wood, owned by Curtis Brown in 2020. Tavistock Wood told the BBC Russell Brand categorically and vehemently denied the allegations made in 2020, but we now believe we were horribly misled by him. Interesting. So now they're not backing him. I wonder why. Tavistock Wood has terminated all professional ties to Brand. Interesting. I wonder if that's because there's actual evidence, or if it's because they just feel like it's too much of a touchy topic to talk about. I mean, first of all, there could be evidence that we don't necessarily know yet that would lead them to believe that. Second of all, like seems like the kind of person that's already a brand risk for a lot of different things, because it seems like he borders conspiracy theorist, so they don't have any reason to like stick with him. That's what I'm saying. That's because the way he's advertised himself, these accusations are highly likely. Oh, okay, so you obviously nothing's confirmed. You think that he actually did it. Like, you think he's the kind of guy who would do it. Okay, yeah. A Channel 4 spokesman told the BBC, Channel 4 is appalled to learn of these deeply troubling allegations, including a behavior alleged to have been taken. Oh my God, I cannot read today. Behavior alleged to have taken place on programs made for Channel 4 between 2004 and 2007. We are determined to understand the full nature of what went on. We have carried out extensive document searches and found no evidence to suggest the alleged incidents were brought to the attention of Channel 4. Okay, so they're just Channel 4 is keeping themselves safe. Gotcha. We will continue to review this in light of any further information we receive, including the accounts of those affected individuals. We will be asking the production company who produced the programs at Channel 4 to investigate these allegations and report their findings properly and satisfactorily to us. Wow, such a good reader. It said that in recent years there had been extensive change in Channel 4's management, and it was committed to ensuring the TV industry is safe and inclusive. The relationship with the 16-year-old alleged to have taken place at a time when Brand was working as a presenter on BBC Radio 6 Music. It is alleged Brand would undress in the studio while working on the show. Dispatches also said Brand made a series of sexual remarks on air about a newsreader, which she later implied he had been told by BBC production staff to apologize for. The Times added sources had told the newspaper that a complaint was made to the BBC management about an alarming display of aggression and disrespect from Brand. I'm curious, though, if a rape kit was done and if And if it was, why legal action was not taken sooner. Like, I'm not aware of how that works. I know rape kits are usually sit for years. That's true. That's actually a good point. They do sit for a long time. A BBC spokesperson or spokesman said Russell Brand worked for a number of different organizations, of which the BBC was one, as well as is well known. Russell Brand left the BBC after a serious editorial breach in 2008. Interesting. What does that mean, an editorial breach? I guess he did something stupid. I don't know. The circumstances of the breach were reviewed in detail at the time. We hope that demonstrates the BBC takes issues seriously and is prepared to act. Indeed, the BBC has, over successive years, evolved its approach to how it manages talent and how it deals with companies or complaints or related or issues raised, which is a good thing, because a lot of times somebody that is in a high position of power that makes people money, like Russell Brand, could get away with things that he did wrong because it's like, well, this guy makes us money, let's just kind of suppress it. It's more about keeping almost not necessarily a squeaky clean, but keeping a palatability to the person that's making the money, rather than trying to get to do the right thing, which is obviously seriously investigate these issues. We have clear expectations around conduct at work. These are set out in employment contracts. The BBC values the BBC Code of Conduct and the anti-bullying and harassment policy. We will always listen to people if they come forward with any concerns on any issues related to any individual working at the BBC, past or present. Yeah, so skimming through this, there's new information on like the full article from, I guess, the Sunday Times or the Times UK. Part of it is that they're claiming that they corroborated a lot of the evidence by talking to, it says over the past few years, the reporters have interviewed hundreds of sources who knew or work with Brand ex-girlfriends and their friends, family, comedians, other celebrity people who worked with him on radio and TV, and senior staff of the BBC and Channel 4. Along with these interviews, reporters have seen private emails and text messages submitted, freedom of information requests, viewed medical and therapist notes, scrutinized Brand's books and interviews, and watched and listened to hundreds of hours of his shows on the BBC, Channel 4. Okay, interesting. Throughout his career, Brand acknowledges sex addiction, and he has often publicly joked about his predatory behavior and sexual life. Interesting. There were rumors of more sinister behavior said to be discussed as an open secret by senior TV and radio executives among female comedians who warned each other of his behavior. But the women involved previously felt unable to speak. Their stories, now publicly told for the first time, shine a light on Brand's mistreatment of women behind closed doors. Sorry, I'm just old. And on the industries that enabled him. 1 second. All right, so we already read this. They gave him 8 days. The publication was concerned. Okay, yeah, this is all. We've already watched his response. The Sunday Times asked his lawyer for evidence referred to, but no answer was provided. Yeah, so this is all referencing his thing. So this is the first one. So Russell Brand's full statement, we already read that, or we listened to it. He sent a car to my school to take me out of lessons. As her taxi approached Russell Brand's home, Alice remembers the driver begging her not to go inside. Really? Recognizing the destination, he had stated, he started to ask questions. Alice admitted she was 16 and still in school. I mean, I guess it's a question of, like, what is the age of consent? But either way, like, it's disgusting that you're 30-something taking a kid out of school to sleep with them. Like, Jesus Christ, She says the driver replied that his daughter was the same age and entreated Alice, or I guess begged her, please, I'm asking you not to go in there. You could be my little girl, and I would want someone to do this for her. Yeah, I feel that. He offered to take her home without charge, but Alice insisted she was fine. He had such a sad look in his eyes, she recalls. Who was this driver? Was it like an Uber? Alice, whose name has been changed to protect her identity, now realizes that she wasn't fine. During a relationship that lasted about 3 months when Brand was a BBC radio presenter, she said that he referred to her as the child and alleges that he became increasingly controlling and then emotionally and sexually abusive. Brand, then 30, sent a car to her secondary school to take her out of lessons. What is secondary school? Is this like a UK thing? What is it? Provide secondary usually includes the building where, what the fuck? I don't even know what this is. Oh, it's like a vocational technical or college. Is this in the UK? I'm assuming that's like a thing in the UK. It's like college for us. Okay, interesting. Okay, so yeah, he would take her out of there, asked her to save his name in her phone as Carly to deceive her parents. Brand's management knew that he had a teenage girlfriend and advised him not to be seen with her in public, she says. Alice alleges that Brand once forced his penis down her throat, finger choke, and that after trying to push him off, he only stopped after she hit him in the stomach. She says she was visibly upset after the incident. Brand made his name in comedy in the early 2000s and also achieved the status of London's most lascivious, whatever, Jesus fucking Christ. After he gave up drugs in 2002, Brand filled the void with sex. In 2005, he received treatment for sex addiction in a clinic in the U.S. His womanizing ways. He once said he could sleep with 80 women in a month. Saw him crowned Shagger of the Year by The Sun 3 times, have a relationship with some of the world's most beautiful women, including Kate Moss, and marry the pop star Katy Perry in 2010. They gave her a divorce in 2012. Okay. Secondary school is high school? Oh, okay. I don't know. When Alice met Brand in 2006, he was becoming a household name as a host of Big Brother's Mouth, BBC Radio receiver. She was 16, recovering from an eating disorder, and had never had a boyfriend. Look, it says advertisement. He approached her in Lex something Square. Probably fucking cares about these ridiculous English things. After she had been shopping at a Top Shop in Oxford Circus, and he had been working at a nearby studio. Alice recognized him from TV and previously seen him do stand-up. He took my shopping bags for me, which was quite disarming, and proceeded to go through my purchases and criticize them. And then he took one dress out and said, "You're going to wear this on our date this week," she recalls. Whoa, the Riz Master. Holy fuck. I wonder if he learned that in the same school that she was going to. 14 years prior. Brand, and just to be clear, there's your allegations, but still, I mean, Jesus Christ, if these stories are true, they're disgusting. Brand asked her to dinner, and she later told her mother, who made Alice text Brand to tell him her age, assuming it would put him off. It didn't. Alice's mother was upset, but did not feel she should control her daughter, who her daughter met. Well, that's weird. Am I reading this right? That the mother knew the age? Alice texts Brand to tell him her age. So the mother, this is who made Alice text Brand to tell him her age. Listen, if my 16, and listen, this girl, if this is true, is the victim. And one of the ways that she's a victim is a shit fucking mother. No offense, but if my 16-year-old daughter said that she was talking to a 30-year-old man, I wouldn't go, oh, text him and tell him you're 16 so he wouldn't be interested. I would fucking beat him. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, what? I wouldn't let her go and hang out with this guy. I'd be on constant 24/7 surveillance. I don't care how intrusive it gets to make sure that this dude wasn't talking to her. I don't know why she would just be like, oh, tell him your age. I give up. Like, that's sad. That's not a particularly strong support system. You know, that's the thing about kids, and she's a teenager, but that's the thing about fucking teenagers is they're stupid. And they're going to do bad things. And it can be very difficult to communicate to a 16-year-old why it's inappropriate to talk to a 30-year-old. We know it's incorrect. And the reason it's incorrect is that as like age gaps get larger, especially for a young person, that person has more life experience, usually more money. They're in higher positions of power. They have a better idea and understanding of themselves and their agency and their autonomy. You as a young person, you're not there. And so it's very easy, or it's much easier for an older person to take advantage of a younger person. And it's hard to communicate to that 16-year-old that thinks that they're mature. So, you know, that's one of the problems is like, yeah, younger girls will try to talk to older guys because they don't understand how that older person is, you know, we're talking 16 to 30, how that older person is that's a predator. It's predatory shit. They don't get it because they think that they're grown. They think that they're mature. They're not particularly self-aware. And this old person has a much easier time taking advantage of them. And so it's hard to communicate. And sometimes you have to put your foot down and be like, you're not talking to this guy. Like, get out of here. Like, I know, like, you start going down there, you start screaming. You go down to the BBC station, you start screaming at them. You make a big deal out of it. That's what you have to do. And so, like, failure right there. But that's usually how people get taken advantage of. They have shit support structures. Sometimes, you know, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But it seems like a lot of times people will be like, yeah, I was in this position and my mom knew or my dad knew and they just didn't do anything. It's like, why? I remember wearing a red wiggle dress. What is that? Like the Wiggles? What the hell? Sorry, I'm just... I need to zoom in because I'm so old. I remember wearing a red wiggle dress and a big platform shoes and had my hair blown out and was wearing makeup, Alice remembers, but I didn't look like a woman by any means. I was a child that got dressed up for dinner. On their first date, she claimed Brand asked her as soon as they met to confirm she was definitely 16, saying, "I don't give a fuck if you're 12. I need to know where I stand legally." So maybe it's legal in that country. During the earliest stages of the relationship, Alice said Brand was very charming and very attractive, sending her verbose messages. She remembers feeling giddy and special. So I wonder if the legality here is 16. And like, I'm not super educated on this, but my understanding is that even if it's legal to sleep with somebody under 18, I think the parents can still claim abuse of a minor. And I could be totally wrong about that. So it's like, if your parents, it's such a weird thing. I'm like rusty on this. All right, let's see. In the UK, the age of consent is 16, and that this is also the legal age of gay sex. Thanks. Okay, you might feel ready before this, but if you're breaking the law, there's a chance to get in trouble. To protect yourself. And okay, I'm trying to see. I guess it's fully legal, dude. What the fuck? Why? Why is this a thing? Why have they not updated this? Oh my god, incredible. That's just fucking wild. I mean, listen, if it's legal, I mean, the bigger issue is the fucking infrastructure that exists that allows this to even happen. Well, we have a weak parent in the one instance, but Jesus Christ, like, update your fucking laws. Normally where consent is under 18, parental consent. Yeah, okay, I'm just getting confused by what I'm saying. Sorry, I'm obviously wrong about that, but that's fucking weird. Like a real, like, where, like, not for nothing, but like, there's no, I haven't seen a push from Democrats or Republicans or any parties in any countries to like increase the age of consent flat to 18. Where is that? Oh, Ethan's blocking. Oh, dude, I didn't even realize that this was on the screen. Sorry. But like, where is that? Where's the push for that? During the earliest stages of their relationship, Alice said he was... Okay, we read that. Before the first time they had sex, Alice says he told him she was a virgin, and he claims he was instantly aroused. Incredible. He was like, "Oh my god, my baby, my baby." He picked me up and cradled me in his arms like a child and was stroking my hair. He's like, "You're like my little dolly." Dude, this is insane. She says he became preoccupied with her being innocent and pure. Listen, when I was like very bad in sex, I only wanted to sleep with virgins because I was very insecure about myself. But as I got like more into it, like as I became better and I felt more confident, I never wanted to sleep with a virgin because it's just like weird, you know, like it's not going to be good sex. And so I really don't understand people who are like attracted to virgins. I find that you're either insecure or a fucking predator. Like, I'm sorry, you know, or you're not. Like, it's one thing to look for somebody that's sexually experiences you out of an insecurity, which is where I was. It's another thing to be like a grown man that has a very deep understanding of sex and then trying and be like turned on by a virgin. It's just very weird to me. I find that to just be a huge red flag, I guess we'd say. She claims that there was a large mirror on the wall, and she remembers during sex he raised his arm above his head like the power stance, like he was conquering something. Over the following weeks, Brand, referred to as the child, asked her to read some fucking book. Oh, Lolita? What is this book? Vladimir Nabokovsky's Lolita. What is that? Isn't that a book about like a younger person sleeping with an older guy? Ew. It's a dude that's obsessed with a 12-year-old. What the fuck? Is this real? Okay, that's my understanding of the book. Incredible stuff. And coached her on what to say to her parents when he wanted to see her. Alice says, although Alice was over the age of consent in the UK, she and her family member who had spoken to the Sunday Times to corroborate her story both described Brand's behavior as grooming. Sure, it could be. Alice says he suggested how she could deceive her parents into allowing her to visit him and claims that he gave her scripts on how to lie to them. She also alleges that he told her not to trust her friends. There it is. That's like the separation of other support structures is like a big part of grooming. You can't trust your friends. You can't trust your family. You can only trust me. It's like generating a dependence onto the person. And that they would all be looking to make money from it if she revealed she was seeing him. It was isolating, she said. That's the goal. Russell engaged in the behavior of a groomer. Well, it's a goal for a groomer, rather. Looking back, but I didn't even know what that was then, or what it looked like. She said Alice recalled, well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Alice recalls that Brand told her never to send him sexual images, and she believed this was because of her age. Alice accuses Brand of being, well, it sounds like he knows what the law is and he's trying to skirt the law, you know, and this is like an unfortunate reality. And I think that this is an issue that affects men more, is that like men really heavily need to be societally socialized in a way that like where this shit doesn't fly, because there's a ton of guys that I've seen say stuff like who cares about age or age of consent as long as they look grown. You know, men can be disgusting. It's not all men, but like some men are like, yeah, I don't really care what the age is as long as it's legal. And that's why we need the laws, because like there's guys who like, if this is true, again, these are allegations, but if this is true, like Russell Brand is one of those guys that would sleep with a 12-year-old if it was legal. You know what I mean? Based on what I'm seeing. And that's why we like really needed a hard pass to 18, like hard shot 18 consent. Jesus Christ. When he invited her over on his 31st birthday, Alice's mother insisted on driving her to emphasize to him that this was a girl with loving parents. When Alice's mother went to meet Brand on the doorstep, Alice says he blocked the door and leant down and kissed my mother on the mouth. She says that afterwards her mother was very, very upset at Brand's behavior and pleaded with Alice to come home with her, but Alice chose to say, bro, like I don't understand, because I know if that was my wife, she would just, I can't be too explicit, but there's no way this would have happened if it was my wife. Like, listen, this girl seems to be the victim of just so many circumstances. I gotta turn this game off. I'm like slightly hearing audio. Like, what are you doing? Like, throw a hand at him or an object. Like, towards the end of the relationship, Alice says that Brand sexually assaulted her. She said, I was sat up in the bed up against the headboard and he forced his penis down my throat and I couldn't breathe. It was choking me and I couldn't breathe and I was pushing at him and he wasn't backing off at all. Yeah, he would just probably say that he likes aggressive sex. Like I do too with my wife, but it's like CNC. But here's the thing. My wife is 28 and I'm 33. So we both have the ability to make a consensual decision on how to engage with this stuff. You know, I don't think a 16-year-old is there when it comes to a 30-something-year-old. She says, I ended up having to punch him really hard in the stomach to let him off. We saw this. I was crying, and he said, oh, I only wanted to see your mascara run away. Then I knew at that point that he didn't care about hurting me physically or emotionally. It shouldn't take you having to punch someone and to wind them to get them off of you. It shouldn't be a physical fight. As Alice lay on one side of the bed after the attack, she alleges that he climbed on top of her, held her mouth open, and drooled into it. Okay, I was gagging and trying to fight him off me, but he's lying on top of me, so I couldn't. She alleges my limbs are trapped underneath him, and I just thought, why are you doing this? It can't even be any sexual gratification in this. And then he held my mouth shut and made me swallow it, so I was just gagging and crying. The relationship ended with Brand invited her over one day, and she arrived to find another woman in his bed. I was so angry, and I said to him, why would you do this? This is so humiliating. If that is what actually happened, he probably wanted her to see that because he was just done with her. He was bored with her. He didn't care anymore. Jesus Christ. If your 16-year-old daughter wants to go with an old man, there's nothing legally you could do. I disagree. I don't know if I don't know if you're a young or you're, I don't know. Like, and again, I live in America. The age of consent, I think in New York, is like 17. So let me tell you something. If my 17-year-old daughter was talking about how she's going on a date with a 30-year-old, it's not happening. I just want it to be explicitly clear. This magical thing in your head is just not going to, oh, you can't stop your 16-year-old or 17-year-old at this age. I can. I can. They live in my house. I will trap them in the house. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the age of consent is. I'm not going to let a fucking 30-year-old talk to my fucking 17-year-old daughter. It's just not going to happen. Like, it's just not gonna happen. Okay, she decided to speak out now because she believes that she was too young to be able to consent to a relationship with an adult man. She probably was. The laws need to reflect that. And the law should be changed. Yeah, that should, to protect those under 18. My mom still feels like she failed me in some way. She did, allowing this to happen, but she had no resources at all. She said it shouldn't be legal for a 16-year-old to be in a relationship with a man in their 30s. That's true. There should be something in place to protect children. I agree. She also wants the entertainment industry to change. For many years, Brand has been applauded for his jokes describing how he manipulated women for sex. I think this was very skillful in the start of making his identity be, I'm the womanizer, I'm the sex addict, I'm inappropriate, but it's all just a joke. It's funny, Alice claims. It's a smokescreen for a lot of dark behavior. That's true. I mean, he sets the stage for his audience to be accepting of this type of behavior. And so even if these things are true, which it is possible, you know, me personally, I think it's likely, but again, these are allegations. And like what I personally think doesn't necessarily matter, but this is my commentary, right? But he's conditioning his audience to not really care. It's the same thing as when you have like manosphere audiences that will say you can only come on my show if you have sex with me, and the audience is like, yeah, that's cool. That's disgusting. That's like Harvey Weinstein level of interaction with that stuff, right? And it's the same thing with his audience now, which he seems to have an audience, people who are very almost like conspiracy. They seem to almost lean into conspiracy, and we understand the media absolutely sensationalizes different things, 1000%. But he seems to lean from the reasonable criticism of sensationalization of media to conspiratorial mentality on it. We felt we were working as a pimp for him. During the early years of Brand's TV career as Channel 4 presenter, there were repeated incidents which raised questions about his interactions with young women while working for them. TV researchers and runners who worked on Channel 4 shows during this period allege that Brand would get staff to approach young female audience members so he could meet them after filming. Okay. Two former crew. I mean, I don't really care about that by itself. I mean, if he wants to have groupies, I don't give a shit. If they want to fuck him or whatever. But two former crew members working on the Big Brothers E-Form, a live spin-off of debate show presented by Brand that would become Big Brother's Big Mouth, separately claims that this made them feel like they were working as a pimp. Gotcha. One says she remembers women calling her in tears after feeling they had been treated poorly by Brand. Another claims that his handler? There were occasions she had to collect Brand from a hotel room and he appeared in his underwear and suggested having a quickie, and she cannot tell if he was joking or not. She says Brand's behavior was widely discussed by those working on the TV set. Yeah, I mean, that's another. The infrastructure of the age of consent is a problem that allowed him to get away with behavior, and the infrastructure of how we treat celebrities to this point where they're like immortal, or at least used to, are they're like immortal, is another issue as well. One runner, Rachel, who was 24 at the time, says she once walked into Brand's dressing room and claimed he flashed his penis at her. She alleges that Brand insinuated that she could give him oral sex. She was shocked and refused. She felt unable to tell anybody about what happened and was worried that if she complained, she would lose her job. Yeah, true. I mean, he should lose his job. She says Brand continued to pursue her, and sometime after he asked her to visit his flat. When she arrived, they kissed and had sex. Well, why would she visit the flat? If she didn't want to okay, maybe she felt pressured. I don't know. They began a relationship, but she alleges he told her to keep it. But she alleges he told her to keep it a complete secret. I guess she was attracted to him. She claims Russell Brand told her he had it written into his contract that he wasn't allowed to have any sexual contact with anybody working there. And Dimmel said that they have reviewed the contract and Brand did not have a clause pertaining to sexual relationships. Okay. A researcher claims Brand's behavior while working on the show was reported to production managers. The company commissioned the Channel 4 to produce the shows. They alleged that they complained about Brands pursuing audience members for sex, but claims their concerns were dismissed. The researcher remembers being told by the talent manager it was what happens with talent. Boys will be boys. It's not a big deal. Incredible. A spokesman for Banijay UK, which brought in 2020, said that because they bought it. It reviewed files and correspondence and could find no records of issues about Brand being raised formally or discussed with them. Okay, yeah, well, probably they didn't write it down. Or maybe it's not true, but I doubt it's not true. Well, who knows? It said, we take our duty of care to our cast, crew, and staff extremely seriously. While the legacy company did have a code of conduct, support policies, and escalation procedures in place during the period in question, they were not as robust as our current processes. Well, yeah, that's because that's basically HR. Like they have particular policies, and then they probably have like an HR person that deals with the policies. HR isn't there to help people. HR is there to help the company run defense for something that's going on. So if they can suppress these things and get people to not escalate, then that's what they're going to do. We are sorry these women did not feel supported and protected while working on these productions and in light of these serious allegations, encouraged to them to contact us in confidence. Brand would regularly have sex with women that he met in events. 2 who went back to his home on separate occasions claimed he became threatening and shouted at them when they refused to have intercourse with him. 1 left his home in tears. Helen Berger, sorry, that name just made me giggle. I'm so immature. Who worked as Brand's personal assistant in 2006, says during his interview for the job, she told one of his managers that she had a girlfriend. She told one of his okay. The manager later told her that he was being gay was being seen as a plus for the job. She believes the manager wanted to make sure that I would be safe. He just wanted to purely platonic situation. What? Okay. Yeah, I saw him showing intimate pictures of women as his friend. Okay. Berger says that Brand was a narcissistic assistant and would openly only wear underwear while she worked. She also remembered Brand openly showing his friends intimate pictures of women. I wonder if that's like porn. That's inappropriate for the workplace, obviously, but I wonder what that means. Or if it's like he's showing like nudes of women, which is also inappropriate. Once while in Edinburgh for the festival and in a bar, she saw Brand showing pictures like these to friends. She says, I leaned in. I think they mean like they leaned in, sure. As he's going through these pictures, he gets to a picture of somebody I knew. It did something to me. It made me feel really sick to my stomach. These are women who aren't expected to be shown to the dude's friends. Yeah, exactly. That's a really disgusting practice to show like nudes to your friends. It's just when somebody sends you a picture, regardless of whether it's boy or girl, whatever, you know, they're sending it to you, and that's the only person that has consent to see it. And when you show it to other people, it's just like it's just a violating, gross act to be engaging in. You know, and that's one of the things I understand. Men think it's like, oh, this is so cool. This is so cool. It's not really cool to make somebody else uncomfortable. You know, if you're having sex to brag about it, you're fucking weird. Like, obviously, you're a loser. You don't need to brag about sex. Lilana, dude, I'm not gonna read that. A highly experienced celebrity assistant who worked for brands between 2007 and 2008 says that she believes she was hired by his managers because she was nearer to his mother's age than his. She recalls that at the interview, Brand said that he liked to walk around with nothing on or something, just a long caftan with nothing underneath. Okay. She remembers replying, I've got a son who's older than you. I've seen it all. Incredible. Brand would, like, why? Why allow that? Jesus Christ. Brand would go on to be hired by the BBC, first on the BBC Six Music in April 2000, before he was moved to Radio 2. That November, he often courted controversy, culminating in the Saxgate scandal. I don't know what that is. In 2008, Brand and his co-presenter, Jonathan Ross, made prank calls to the actor Andrew Sachs, who had played Emmanuel in Fawlty Towers. I don't know who the fuck these are. Leaving a lewd message on his answering phone. The way that they talk is so weird. Answering machine, okay? Brand hinted at a relationship with Sachs' granddaughter, Georgiana, whatever, prompting Ross to declare he fucked your granddaughter, which Sachs had not known about. When the scandal emerged, Gordon Brown, then the Prime Minister, criticized the broadcast, and both Brand and his station's controller were resigned from the BBC, which was fined $150,000. BBC admitted to editorial standards had been broken. Okay. He's grabbing out my underwear. I'm telling him to get off. Following the scandal, Brand moved to Los Angeles, where he focused on a Hollywood film career and a new American TV show. He remained in LA after his marriage to Perry failed in 2012. Adam, I wonder what she would have to say about this. Because I feel like he probably cheated on her, right? At a party one night, he met Nadia, a businesswoman who was then in her 30s. They exchanged numbers, and Brand later got in touch, and they began texting and talking on the phone. She said they met up in June 2012 at his house in LA and went on to have consensual sex, but she was unsettled by his glazed over look. He does this thing where he glazes over. I don't know what's going on in his head, he says. It was fine, but it was weird first-time experience with somebody when you're having sex with them first time. I don't care about that. During one text exchange, Brand suggested Nadia bring a friend. I don't care about that either. They then met again in early hours of the morning. When she arrived at his house, they pleaded with her to come over. Okay. When I walked in, the door was unlocked, and I just walked in, and they said he comes running out of bed naked, and I'm kind of taken back. I've got a bag on my shoulder, a little dress, and a coat on top. And I said Brand took her to the wall, kissed her, and made a comment, something about along the lines of, I'll keep you safe. He then told her that a friend was already in the bedroom and that they wanted her to join, according to Nadia. I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. I don't care. That's not happening. We're not doing that. She says, I tried to get away from him and I slipped away from the wall, and then I went to another wall that had a painting on it, huge painting, and my bag got actually stuck underneath that, and it's still on my arm. And at that point, he's grabbing my underwear, pulling them to the side. Jesus Christ. Nadia alleges that she told Brand to get off her and that she wanted to leave, but he had carried on. I'm stuck underneath the painting and he's pushing up against me. She says he's a lot taller than me and he's got that glazed look in his eyes and I can't move. And I told him, get off, get off. Nadia claims that Brand pushed her up against the wall and raped her without a condom. What the fuck? Holy Jesus Christ. Jesus, all these. I just need like a second because this kind of stuff like always drains me a little bit. This is wild, man. This is fucked up. If it's true, obviously these are allegations, but it's Jesus Christ. Brand finally finished and he says she pushed him away, and then he blocks the door that I've come into because he doesn't want me going. Nadia says, he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "No, I'm not okay. You need to get away from me." And he's like, "Let's calm down." Nadia says that Brand eventually stepped away from the door he had been blocking after Nadia told him she wanted to use the bathroom. I ran out and jumped in my car. Thank God I didn't park in the driveway and I booked it out of there. She says, that was it. I sat on the road a little longer. I was in a daze. Oh my God. At 3:29 a.m., Brand sent Nadia a text. He wrote, "I'm sorry, that was crazy and selfish. I hope you can forgive me. I know that you're a lovely person, X." He tried phoning her at 3:51, but the call went unanswered. Damn. I mean, that's if they have those text messages, which I'm assuming they verified in this article. That's definitely suggestive that he did do it. Jesus Christ. Nadia says she was almost the night. She did not reply to Brand's text until 10:59 a.m. She wrote that he had taken advantage of her and scared the shit out of me. She wrote in her text to Brand, "Do you know how scary you are when that glaze comes over your face?" Glaze look. When a girl says no, it means no. Do I have to get myself tested? Brand replied he was very sorry and wrote, "You don't need to get tested. I will make this up to you somehow with live and kindness." I don't know what that means. Not my original idea, which was more sex. You've been lovely to me and embarrassed by my behavior. Sorry. If this is exactly how it corresponded, I mean, that's like an admittance of rape, no? I mean, maybe not. No, it is. I mean, do you know how scary you are when a girl says no, it means no. And if she says that and he says like he's sorry, then that means he's admitting that he raped her. Okay. The U.S. phone number that Brand used to send messages has been verified by multiple sources. Jesus Christ, dude. That's fucking crazy. I guess unless he was bypassing and just be like he was sorry for his overall behavior. This to me there's too much suggestive. I don't know if that's confirmed, man. That to me is like pretty close to verification that he's like some kind of a fucking disgusting piece of shit. Nadia, meanwhile, had told a close friend what had happened, and she took her to the rape treatment center at UCLA Santa Monica Medical Center the same day. She was shared a full copy of her treatment records, which state that she provided her underwear along with other samples of evidence which were frozen. An officer from the Los Angeles Police Department was alerted by the center according to notes, but she chose not to make a police report, saying to the center she didn't think my words would mean anything up against his. It would have been good if she got the police report, but I understand that. The notes also state that she was worried that if her assailant's name is somehow released, then her name will be dragged through the dirt. Yeah, I get that. Nadia had therapy at the clinic for the following 5 months. During her therapy sessions, records show that Nadia was contemplating criminal or civil proceedings before ultimately deciding against it. However, she wrote Brand a letter hoping to regain some of her power in the process. Her notes said that she says she sent it to his house. In the letter, she asked, "Do you know what you put me through, my body through?" Yeah, because I mean, after she allegedly sexually assaulted her, she has to go through the rape kit, and it can be a very additionally traumatizing experience. You know. You scared the shit out of me on July 1st. I thought in any situation I would be strong enough to fight off somebody. You completely broke me down. Jesus. I guess this is a performance 6 weeks after the accusation. Okay. I was fighting and screaming so hard. Brand kept building his career in America. The following year, another woman claims she was a victim of sexual assault in Brand's house. Phoebe, who was in her 20s, says she met Brand at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting before they started working together, and that she had a brief sexual relationship with him, which had ended at some time of the alleged attack in early 2013. I mean, if all these stories are correct, he seems to be the kind of person that gets off to raping women. Like, it seems to be his power play. It's like he likes to sexually assault women. That's what it seems to be. Like, that's not consensual, not consent. Like, he seems to get like an actual, and again, these are allegations, but he seems to get an actual pleasure out of assaulting women. Phoebe says the team working on the project with Brand at the time worked from different locations, including from his property in West Hollywood. She was at his house when she realized that a member of his staff had gone out and they were alone. She describes being trapped in a bedroom and realizing that Brand wanted to have sex with her. She says she can't remember whether he was naked or in his underwear, but that he ended up naked at some point and started chasing her. She claims he grabbed me and got me on the bed. She claims that he tried to kiss her and remove her clothes as he pinned her down, Phoebe says, and I saw something come over his eyes. I swear to God, like black in his eyes and had no more color. They were black like the devil, like a different person literally entered his body. She was fully clothed. I was screaming. I was like, what are you doing? Please stop. You're my friend. I love you. Please don't do this. I don't want this. I don't want to do this. I think he had his hands down my trousers, but I was fighting so hard and I was screaming so hard, hoping that I could get through somehow. She says, I don't know what the actual definition of sexual assault is, but it feels like that he didn't rape me. So okay. She says she kept begging him to get off her, and eventually he relented, at which point he flipped and was super angry. Phoebe says Brand was shouting, fuck you, and you're fired, and says she fled Brand's house in tears, stopping only to grab her shoes before running barefoot to the car. So I don't know the specifics, but even if they were on, dude, first of all, firing somebody because they won't fuck you is insane. This guy's, if this is true, this guy's fucking insane. Jesus Christ. Holy fuck. This is wild. Okay, as she left, Phoebe says she passed a group of people who had arrived at the house for a meeting about the project. Years later, she said she met one of the people who had been in the group. She says, he pulled me aside and said to me, I have never forgiven myself for not running in that house to save you. I heard you screaming and I didn't know what to do, and we were all so scared of him, and I didn't do anything. I'm sorry. Times attempted to contact this person, but he did not respond. I mean, this is the problem when you have like media personalities who are perceived as immortal. The businesses don't really do anything about it because they make them money. Again, allegations, but Jesus fucking Christ. I mean, with all the different aspects in this, I don't doubt that these are real. Phoebe, who told friends what happened to her, felt forced to return to work in the days afterward, but she claimed that Brand, after becoming aware of her allegation, cornered her and threatened her with legal action. Phoebe did not formally report the incident as she feared that her career would be affected. 3 separate sources confirmed that she had told them about her allegation at the time, while 2 more were also aware of it. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. She wouldn't want to, even if they believed her. This is one of the problems. Even if they believed her, even if they took action against her, even if they fired Russell Brand, even if they took it to the police, there's still that possibility that people would find her to be like too much of a hassle to want to work with, because it's like, why wouldn't she suppress that? She ruined everything. Like, that's one of the mentalities that some people have. I mean, it's a scary situation to be in. A short time later, Brand left the U.S. and moved back to the UK. It was then that serious allegations about his conduct behind closed doors first became public. In 2014, ex-girlfriend Jordan Martin wrote about their relationship in a self-published book, K-Not, Entanglement with a Celebrity, in which she renames Brand Randall Grand and herself Diana. Or Dina, excuse me. Well, I can see why she'd name herself Dina instead of Jordan. I mean, Jesus. Sorry, a little joke there. Trying to break the tension. She declined to be interviewed for this investigation due to personal family circumstances, but has confirmed that she stands by her account in the book and says that it is an accurate depiction of their relationship. Brand never challenged her on its content. I'm assuming she wrote a book and it painted him in like a bad light, or maybe the honest light, right? But he wouldn't respond to it because he would just bring attention to it. Excuse me. Brand and Martin had a 6-month relationship from February 2007, during which they briefly lived together. In the book, Martin describes being sexually assaulted by Brand and Brand being physically and emotionally abusive towards her. The alleged assault occurred in the Lowry Hotel in Manchester. She describes how Brand became angry when he found out she had spoken to an ex-boyfriend, snatching a phone from her, ripping the case apart, and pulling out the battery. Oh, okay. I mean, why are we talking to your ex if you're dating someone else? But that doesn't justify abusive behavior. But Martin writes about how she then walked away from Brand and she was standing at the sink in the room when he came up behind her. In the book, she describes how Brand does not say a word. He stands close to her. He slides his hand in the front of her low-hanging jeans into her underwear and forces a finger inside of her. Martin writes about how she was not ready for this intrusion and did not find it sensual or pleasant. After that, Brand allegedly walked out of the room silently, leaving her feeling confused, uncomfortable, and a little stunned. She also described how he once forced her to brush her teeth so hard that her gums bled, so she would taste anonymous to him. Okay, what the fuck? Martin writes the Brand pushes boundaries, controlling other people to fulfill personal perversions for the sake of dominance or for the sake of something. Alarming displays of aggression. Brand's attitude towards women became an open secret in the radio and TV production, according to sources. Many felt the BBC... I wonder what those sources mean, but... many felt the BBC should have been awake to the concerns about Brand's on-air behavior well before the Satchgate. I don't know what the Satchgate scandal. While hosting his BBC show on Six Music, he and his co-host Matt Morgan would sometimes undress in the studio and encourage guests to do likewise. What the fuck? When contacted by the Times and Sunday Times, Morgan said, "I stopped working with Russell Brand several years ago. During the time I worked with him, I was never aware of any allegations of serious sexual misconduct against him." Well, that's weird. Serious sexual misconduct? Okay. I absolutely, which means that he was aware of what I guess he would classify as a not serious sexual misconduct. At least that's how I interpret it. "I absolutely condemn all forms of mistreatment of women. Looking back at on the time I spent working on the radio at the BBC, I am regretful to learn that a show I was part of made colleagues uncomfortable at times." It seemed like you knew that since you said serious sexual misconduct. In July 2008, Ofcom, the communications regulator, fined the BBC £17,500 for a serious breach of its code after finding the Brand show on the Six Music had faked a competition winner. Okay. During other Radio 2 episodes, Brand made a series of sexual remarks about the newsreader Andrea Simmons, describing her on air as erotic and a sex bomb, and telling listeners that he would like to go under the desk while she was reading the news. Several times after that, it is implied that Brand was forced to apologize. But I think we covered that. In May 2007, Brand called Jimmy Savile, who suggested the pair could meet if Brand brought along a sister. Brand doesn't have a sister, so instead offered to bring a female employee, agreeing on Savile's request that she should be naked. "I've got a personal assistant," he said. "Any part of her jobs, and part of her job description is that anyone I demand she greet, meet, massage, she has to do it. She's very attractive, Jimmy." This was 4 years before Savile's death and 5 years before details of Jim to whatever the presenter crime. Apparently there are crimes there. I mean, this is all like UK speak. How the fuck am I supposed to read this? You know, just like slightly off to me. That's what makes it weirder. You know. According to insiders who were working for the BBC Radio at the time, complaints were made about Brand's behavior in studios to Leslie Douglas, then the BBC's controller for Radio 2 and Six Music, but nothing appeared to be done as a result. In December 2007, another serious complaint was made by BBC staff to Leslie Douglas about Brand's behavior in the Radio 2 studio. Sources who were involved said that the complaint was made after an alarming display of aggression and disrespect by Brand in the studio, which included Brand hurling objects across the studio in fits of rage and urinating in a bottle in full view of employees. Brand had done this, the sources said, in front of production staff and guests, including a young person who appeared to be a minor. That's their, in quotes. James Savile is really gross. Okay, look. Okay, I don't know who that is. And had been sent to appear on Radio 2 by a charity. This alleged complaint and any others that had been made were not mentioned in subsequent official reports into Satchgate. A spokesman for the BBC said it was clear expectations. It has clear expectations and policies around conduct at work, and had taken the Jonathan Ross Radio 2 incident incredibly seriously. He said, "We hope that demonstrates that the BBC takes issues seriously and is prepared to act. Indeed, we would add that in addition to acting on the serious editorial breach at the time, the BBC has, over successive years, evolved its approach to how it manages talent and indeed how it deals with complaints or issues raised. We will always listen to people if they come forward with any concerns on any issue related to any individual working in the BBC, past or present." These are really low quality pictures. Lawyer. So I'm assuming this Jimmy guy was disgusting, and the idea is like him and Russell Brand were friends in some capacity. You know, I see what they're saying. Lawyers representing Douglas said Mrs. Douglas or Miss Douglas did not at any time encourage, enable, and or fail herself to take any adequate steps within her power with regard to the conduct of Russell Brand of which she was aware. She is presently unable to provide any further information which may be irrelevant to the matters raised in this article due to the obligations owed by her to her former employee. Alice, who later worked at Channel 4, recalled a meeting in late 2013 or early 2014 during which Brand was pitched as a host of the show, but concerns about his behavior were flagged. The solution that was offered was that we would take the female staff off the crew. Women that have worked hard to get into the industry now can't work on a particular show because of fear that they might be assaulted or harassed. I was in disbelief. Interesting. So he had, if this is an actual solution that they just wouldn't let women work there because he couldn't control himself. Like, yeah, that is removing, that's ridiculous. Fire him. He shouldn't be able to work. It shouldn't be an excuse of like, oh, this guy really likes to like harass and assault women. So like we just can't pay women anymore. This is a quick copy paste. Sexually assault, abused hundreds of people throughout his life, most of them children, but some as old as 75. Okay, that's for the other person, Jimmy Savile. Interesting. If that's true, of course. I mean, I just didn't verify it myself, so if that's what you're saying, copy and paste it, that's pretty disgusting. Brand continued to be given opportunities by mainstream broadcasters in the UK, including on Channel 4. In 2019, he appeared on a celebrity edition of Bake Off. He baked biscuits inspired by the genitals of his wife, Laura Gallagher. Wow, incredible. I think that's how you say that, or Galatcher. I don't care. What the fuck? Okay. The spokesperson for Channel 4 said Channel 4 is appalled to learn of these deeply troubling allegations, including behavior alleged shifting in place on programs made for Channel 4 between 2004 and 2007. We are determined to understand the full nature of what went on. We have carried our extensive document searches and have found no evidence to suggest the alleged incidents were brought to the attention of Channel 4. We will continue to review this. Okay, we already went this before. Yeah, so they're basically just saying that they didn't find anything. We will be asking product company. Yeah, we've read that before. Okay, so they found themselves innocent, guys. Don't worry, they found themselves innocent. They're okay. It said that in many years since the incidents emerged, there had been extensive change in Channel 4's management and has committed to ensuring the TV's industry is safe and inclusive. Incredible. A spokesperson for John Noel Management, the agency that represented Brand from 2002 to 2017, said that for legal reasons on which they cannot elaborate, they were not in a position to respond to questions. Female comedians have warned for years. For this investigation, journalists were in touch with dozens of comedians who have worked with Brand. A female comedian said that in the early 2000s, when they giggled together, Brand chased her around backstage and bit her on the face, despite her making clear she was uncomfortable. Whenever he saw me, he would grab me and bite my face, and I was coupled up with this weird, horrible energy, she recalls. I said to him, I don't like this, and he said, and he still did it. So much before he stopped, it was him crossing boundaries. She also witnessed his behavior at parties. He was like the Predator from the sci-fi film. He would show up and you'd see him scan the room, who he hadn't slept with, who he was going to sleep with. He should never have got to Hollywood. His behavior should have stopped that. But he was able to become a Hollywood star and do so well out of it. Daniel Sloss, that was his whole thing. His entire MO was being the creepy fucking Predator, right? Like that was his thing, and it was something that everybody looked at and went like, it's so funny, like the womanizer. And it's interesting because fundamentally, when you think of a womanizer just displayed on TV, it's always the guy who hits on girls, and then when they say no, he stops. It's like, oh, you don't want to date me? Fine, I'll just move on. But in the real world, it's not that. These womanizers, they tend to be very sexually aggressive with women. So I'm sure there are some good womanizers out there. Okay. Daniel Sloss was the only comedian willing to speak on record and using his real name. He says he first heard rumors about Brand's behavior on the comedy circuit more than 10 years ago. Sloss says that female comedians have set up online groups that they use to warn each other of comedians and others working in the comedy industry who they have unpleasant experiences with, including predatory behavior. Sloss says, I know for many, many years that women have been warning each other about Russell. He said, I know there are comedians who made references and jokes to Russell's alleged crimes and have either been asked or told not to do these jokes anymore. Really? So they made jokes about Russell being a rapist and they were told not to. Incredible. In recent years, Brand has reinvented himself. He promotes himself as a wellness guru. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but listen, like in my opinion, these guru type people that's predatory. Maybe that's disproportionate energy. But these are the types of people that tend to appeal to people that are very weak in very low positions where they're desperately looking for something to fill some kind of a void that will help them find direction in life. And I think that gurus are some people that step in to take advantage of those people. Again, I think that manosphere content is very similar. Anybody, when the people will constantly brag about these guys will reach out to me and tell me that I saved their fucking life, blah, blah, blah. These are the kind of people, the gurus that they attach themselves to people that need help, and they generally siphon resources from them in some capacity, whether it's selling an $80 a month program or, anything else like that. Anyway, he promotes himself as a wellness guru to an estimated 28 million followers across social media, podcasts, and a live festival. He has been known for discussing conspiracy theories while offering advice on subjects such as relationships and addiction. He rebranded himself. Okay, interesting. In late 2020, Alice, who is now happily married, contacted Brand's literary agent, the co-founder, which is owned by a talent company. Alice said that she told Brand's representatives of what he did to her when she was 16 because she hoped that he had changed. She wanted an apology, and at the very least for them to know the type of man she's representing. She says that she was told Brand was away at a wellness retreat, but that she would get a response. Alice eventually did hear back from a lawyer acting as for Brand, who denied her allegations. It was very aggressive. She said, I was after money, and implied that it was almost blackmail what I was doing. She says, I never mentioned money. The lawyer was the only person who ever mentioned money. Okay. She replied to Brand's lawyer, emphasizing that she was sharing the truth and had never asked for money. I have spent too long. Well, obviously this was going to be the response, because if he apologizes to her, that gives her legal standing to sue. Not that she was going to, but that's going to be how they interpret it, and that would be like an admission of guilt. Never asked for money. I have spent too long recovering from these acts to have them dismissed or to be intimidated into invalidating my own experiences, she wrote, adding, to even imply that there is a quantifiable amount that would compensate for sexual assault is frankly insulting. Yeah, true. It would take his representatives almost 3 years to say they believed Alice. After we contacted them last week, Brand was suddenly removed from the websites of Curtis Brown and Tavistock Wood. It's probably because they brought a ton of allegations against him, and it seems like they have some credible evidence to suggest that this might be actually real. The latter then said, Russell Brand categorically and vehemently denies the allegations in 2020, but we do now believe we were horribly misled by him. Tavistock Wood has terminated all professional ties to Brand. Okay. Some names have been changed. Yeah, so that's that. That was a lot. I'm happy we read through it. Like we always say, these are allegations. They're not necessarily proven, but there seems to be at least some evidence that corroborates some of these stories. And considering the guy's entire brand as being like an actual sex addict, insane fuck, I really wouldn't doubt it, to be honest with you.